everyone, and welcome to today's Wildcard Wednesday for the MyGeotab and Geotab Drive 2102 updates. So glad that you could join us today. My name is Sue Miller, and I'm a Senior Fleet Account Manager here at Geotab and your host for today's expert session. Before we get started, just a quick reminder that if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the question box and we'll make sure that they get answered. So today we have two subject matter experts with us. Anthony Roberts, Customer Success Team Lead, will review the MyGeotab updates. And then all things ELD, Kyle Dodsworth, our Solutions Engineering Team Lead, will lead us through the Geotab Drive updates. So to get us started today, here's Anthony.
Thank you, Sue. My name is Anthony Roberts, and I'm a Customer Success Team Lead. And today, I'll be taking you through the MyGeotab updates for the 2102 release. There is a lot of content to cover, so today we'll be going through the new MyGeotab design. We'll go through the new live chat feature. We'll be talking about some dashboard and reporting enhancements, along with mapping, analytics, vehicles and assets, which is a new concept, users, a lot on maintenance and engine, and then public works as well. And of course, we have quite a few improvements that we want to go through, from general improvements and SDK improvements as well. Now, just to be sure everyone is on the same page of how we check the current versions in our database, if you navigate to administration and then about, as you can see in the highlighted slide here, it will let you know what current version or build of MyGeotab you're on. All right, so the new MyGeotab UI and what's new. Some of the main design principles that we wanted to establish were clear visual hierarchy, consistent interactions throughout the entire MyGeotab space, white space and content legibility, and accessibility. As you can see, we've been working hard to update the entire user interface's look and feel. Our main goal was to modernize the look of the platform while also keeping all the same kind of functionality and features in the places that people are used to finding them. We updated the colors, the fonts, a lot of the UI components such as buttons and dropdowns, as well as fields and tables. As you can see, one of the biggest changes that we've made is the side navigation. And that's where we made a lot of changes to the icons. We've made them consistent and flat, and taken out the kind of range colors that used to be in those icons previously. So the visual hierarchy is established through taking out those colors and putting in colors in those areas that really need to draw the user's attention, which is to the contents on the page. For example, we really wanted to bring the user's eye into the content. So red, as you can see in this particular side, is used for things that need to draw to the attention of the user right away, especially for those things that might be going wrong. Consistent interactions throughout our library of components that are a little more and consistently used across the pages. And then finally, accessibility was a big part of the UI refresh as well. And we wanted to give all of our users the same kind of consistent experience across the platform. So our color palette is much more accessible now. As you highlight over some of the options, you'll be able to tell that you're in that particular section as those buttons are highlighted, which is a direct different color than they originally are. To the live chat. So we're keeping it personal by starting a conversation that helps us get to know you, our users, to get to know our products, as well as simply telling us who you are, what you need help with. Our agents will be standing by to help you stay connected and stay on the road to success. One of the big things I want to note here is that in order for any user to use the live chat feature, your username must be an email address, because it links it to that email address component in the user profile. So in order for us to be able to have that conversation on the live chat, you'll need that user to be set up using their email address. Next is dashboard and report. So we have a new and improved built-in dashboard design with our reports. We removed our current suite of built-in reports and replaced them with new contemporary reports that make sense for your business. The 4 following reports will be immediately entered into your database once you create it. Those will be the idling violations, the watchdog report, the fleet utilization, and the fleet distance trend report. Previously, the 5 reports that we had on databases by default were the activity summary, the basic driver scorecard, the business first personal, number of stops, and the percentage of time idling. Now you can see with these 4 new reports, they're more up to date with the current metrics that most of our users are looking for. So we hope that this enhancement to the dashboard really starts to help you on a day-to-day basis. Additionally, we've added 17 brand new reports for visibility. Now, with the exception of the previously mentioned 4 dashboard reports, so the idling, the watchdog, the fleet utilization, and the fleet distance trend, all the other reports are not enabled by default. Users can navigate to the built-in report section on the report setup page to set these reports up as dashboard or email reports as well. So there's a lot of content here, and of course, like we do with all of our MyGeotab and Geotab Drive updates, we will give you guys the release notes and the links to it so that you could go over all of these great new reports that are going to be accessible to you. Continuing along the trend of dashboard and reports, we have also updated more than 65 of our built-in reports to better showcase our system capabilities, along with improving the layout and visual appeal. To support large fleets and date ranges, we've added functionality to improve the performance of our risk management and exception reports. Faster run times means faster access to the information that's important to you. Now, another fantastic new tool that for now will be available in feature preview is the dashboard wizard. Whether you're a new customer, or you're want to hit the ground running, the new dashboard wizard can help you get started in 3 very easy steps. Simply choose your pillar of interest, select your reports, and choose your audience. We'll do the rest. Rules are applied automatically and be changed anytime by going into the administration, report setup, and dashboard section. Another note here are only users with company group access and the appropriate permissions to set up reports can view the dashboard wizard. Okay, so this is a tremendous new feature that will allow you the flexibility to create these dashboards and reports that are important to your business. Next, we have some map updates. So previously only available to large fleets, the clustered map view is now available for fleets of all sizes. While in preview, we set limits of 500 assets or more. And due to popular demand, fleets of all sizes can now enjoy additional insights using the clustered map view. Right, more map updates. So the live map advanced view. Fleet owners can now view asset details while tracking their position on the live map at the same time. This is helpful for fleets who want to monitor the current status of their assets, for example, temperature, loaded states, fuel levels, and much more. Snap to road. Now, to better visualize trips on the map, we've integrated our routing service with tools to support asset types of devices, additional ports of devices as well. Fleets with telematics devices that record less frequently will find this feature very helpful, as trip data will no longer interfere with landmarks on the map. In our last release, we introduced the Marketplace Analytics Lab add-in, a suite of experimental apps designed to provide performance insights that help fleets make informed business decisions. For this release, the Analytics Lab is installed by default and available to all MyGeotab users, except for white-labeled FedRAMP customers. Using fleet telematics data, the Analytics Lab combines easy-to-use apps with templates and models from our own API Explorer to analyze, visualize, and uncover trends in your fleet's operations. We have a number of experiments available, such as collision detection, intelligent zooming, just to name a few of our current experiments. but we're always improving or adding more. Keep checking back to see if there's anyone in any project that's of interest to you. Vehicles, assets, and users. So as you can see, we are going to be renaming vehicles to vehicles and assets. Now, telematics isn't just for vehicles anymore, and neither are we. MyGeotab is a full-service IoT platform that can connect to any asset, including trailers, generators, and other industry equipment. To better reflect our data acquisition capabilities, we've changed vehicles to vehicles and assets in the main menu, and vehicles to assets throughout the application. Another note here is compliance-related features such as hours of service and inspection reports will continue to use the term vehicle. We've also renamed DVIR to asset inspection. To support international customers, we're changing the name to asset inspection to better associate features with this functionality. Now, some updates that we've made to the users. Users can now select their regional unit of measurement for units displayed on the engine measurements page. From the options page, users can also create custom profiles if there are no suitable defaults to choose from. Note, this feature will be available across the application, including in reports in a future release. We have made a number of changes to our maintenance reminders. Users can now record the cost of asset maintenance on the maintenance event page. For a detailed analysis, costs can be broken down into parts, labor, and tax. This feature also supports multi-currency conversions and the option to select a default regional currency. More from the maintenance side, we've also added new columns to the data and summary report tabs for total asset maintenance costs. Users can now also import asset maintenance costs from the bulk import template. Users can easily import maintenance records into an Excel spreadsheet in both CSV and XLSX formats. Also, for quick access to upcoming maintenance events, we've added additional options for next week and next month in the date picker. The engine faults page has been enhanced and now includes the following features. We have a compact table layout. We have the ability to view and hide columns. We have filter options for source, whether it's vehicle or telematics and or different types of protocols. Total number of times a fault was logged, as well as viewing options for specific fault codes, description, current status, and much more. We have added new filter options to the engine fault reports. These options are also available for dashboard and email reports. And like I said before, these faults can now be filtered by the source of the fault, whether it's from the vehicle or telematics device itself, the engine protocol, and engine diagnostic as well. On the public works side, to ensure valuable infrastructure is serviced adequately while controlling costs and tracking material usage, the route completion features are now available to Geotab Public Works users. Government agencies who manage assets such as salt spreaders, snowplows, street sweepers, and waste management assets will find this feature extremely useful for complying with maintenance and service standards. Be sure to enable feature preview and visit the system setting page where you can import your routes. Once imported, return to the map and press the route completion button at the top. We have also added in two new built-in reports, which are the standard and advanced route completion reports. As I mentioned earlier, you'll have the ability in feature preview where you can upload into MyGeotab the routes using the shapefile upload tool under system settings and route completion. So this will give you the ability to take your shapefile and load it directly into MyGeotab. Continuing with Public Works, as I said, we have new route-based option for material management reports. Material management reports can now be generated for any route completion routes that are uploaded. This new report provides detailed and summary totals for winter operations materials such as solid, pre-wet, and anti-ice. An operations activity such as spread time and plow distance per service group, and routes. We added a number of general improvements, and of course, like I said before, there have been SDK updates as well. To name a few, we have the View Device Share, which allows a user to view telematics services extended to their database from another database. We have the View User Device Link, which will allow a user to view existing links between users and devices, which are only available through API. We have the JSON serialization. We have the generator add-in, which is new to Geotab Drive. And then we also have the fault data. So we've added fault states to the report, which allows to represent more precise and potentially multiple fault states. In the future, fault state will be deprecated, though still available for backwards compatibility. All right, and as a friendly reminder, stay up to date with everything new at Geotab by signing up for the newsletter here. We also often request feedback on our releases. If you ever wish to provide feedback on a particular item or in general, please utilize the mygproduct@geotab.com email address, as you can see here. And once again, there is that link to the blog that will allow you to read through all the great enhancements that we've went through so far today. So that's it from the MyGeotab side. Kyle, over to you for Geotab Drive.
On the Drive side, just a few updates. Definitely will say that the MyGeotab side got most of the attention on this particular release, but we'll talk about some general improvements, a little bit on the SDK, and then I'll talk a lot about reports as well, hopefully shedding some light on some of those other questions we had. So one of these naming updates was already mentioned on the MyG side, but inside of the Drive app, we've also harmonized that DVIR nomenclature to rename it to Asset Inspection. Now, because we have the word inspection in that asset name, we changed the inspection mode to roadside check because we didn't want to have the word inspection in two different places. Now, they're still accessed in the exact same places. It's just a new name for inspection mode. On the note actually about inspections, on the inspection reports, to be more consistent with the Drive app, the defect severity column in the DVIR reports now uses minor and major for the severity types instead of normal and critical. And the trailer column is going to be blank now if you don't actually have a trailer attached onto a vehicle. So if you're not in combination. In previous releases, it would actually say no trailer, but that is kind of counterintuitive because if you're using the Excel report and you're using calculations to look for something, having text there that is a null is not the easiest thing to deal with. So now it'll just be a blank column if you don't have a trailer attached in combination. There is a small tweak for Canadian users to the yard move exemption, and this is just a little bit more to go along with the Canadian ELD regulations. So unlike in the US where yard move doesn't have any restrictions in terms of speed, Canada, it has to cap and turn off and go back to regular driving once you're at 32 kilometers per hour or 20 miles per hour. So if you're on our Canadian rule set, the system will be monitoring all of the yard move, and if you do go more than 32 kilometers an hour, it will flip you back into drive automatically, and that has to happen because that is a Canadian ELD mandate. But it does only apply when you're on that Canadian rule set. So if you're outside of Canada, you can still use the yard move exemption inside of the rules section. You can still configure that to turn off on a speed threshold. So 20 miles per hour is the highest that you can choose there. And you can also use the zone exit to turn off yard move as well. So for those of you who are using that quote unquote UPS exemption outside of Canada, it still works the exact same way that you've had it configured. But when you are in Canada, it will override that and will use the speed for certain because we have to. Moving along as well for Canada ELD on the compliant prints. So there's actually two different ones we're going to talk about. Inside of the Drive app, the compliance view will have a bunch of new material added when you're on the Canadian rule set. So all of these things that you see here on the screen, they're all required for the Canadian ELD side, but not the US. So you'll see a lot of them are specific for Canada, like total hours, total in your cycle, the remaining hours in your cycle, different operating zones ones, those are all things that are specific to Canada. So you'll see on the print view inside of Geotab Drive, so we're talking about in the roadside check, the inspection area, the print view will have more material here because again, we're just getting ready for those inspections in Canada for ELD. You'll see a few more things added to the MyGeotab print option as well, just to harmonize. Keep in mind that the MyGeotab print option, that is more of a record keeping option. It's not designed to actually be compliant with exactly what an officer would want to see at roadside because it's not designed for that, but it has been increased in terms of the material that's there, because if you are using this print option for your record keeping, be a really good idea to have all of the same information here coming off of the Canadian rule set. So it has a few of these are additions as well. There is a new SDK update for camera APIs. So this is for anyone who might be thinking about building an add-in using cameras, but you can now use this API call and allow the user to take a picture or upload an existing picture. So this might be useful for anyone who's embedded the Geotab Drive app or anyone who has created an app of their own. So you can now access the storage of the system through this API call. Okay, so on to the bigger part of what I wanted to talk about, and that's about the marketplace reports. So for quite a while, we've had a large number of reports on the marketplace for ELD and hours of service, and we wanted to update all of them. So that's what we've done. Now, all of the versions, if you've downloaded one of the older versions, they'll still work perfectly fine on your database. But if you do want to get the newer versions, you'll need to download them over again into your database from the marketplace, with the exception of 3 of them, which we actually already talked about earlier in this presentation, but we'll talk about them as we get through these. Keep in mind too, if you need any help with this, reach out to your reseller or your account manager and they will be able to help. We'll talk about each of these reports in a little more detail. So the first one on the left is the excessive PC report, so excessive personal conveyance. This is one that we've had before, and we've simply updated it to match the new kind of nomenclature and the new colors. We've also made I call it the widget or the tile that you would have on your dashboard to be a lot more clear as to exactly what's going on. And we also created a brand new version of this for the report on the right for excessive yard move. It's the same idea, except now it's looking for yard move statuses over a certain distance. So both of these are configurable. You can go in and you can actually change the threshold that it's looking for, and then you can put it into your database and onto your dashboard or email. They work actually either or. You can use it for both of those functions. So these 2 that we have on the screen are 2 that were actually going to be automatically included in this 2102 update. So for these 2, you can actually just go into your database once you're on 2102 and you can enable them for email or dashboard if you like. Now, the HOS violations we've actually had for quite a while. This is HOS violations and it breaks it down by reason. This has a new interface. It has a new graph, as you can see on the screen, and it makes it a little bit easier to see exactly how many of each type of violations you have and your total number of violations that the system is tracking. And then the Eld Diagnostics and Malfunctions, this is a brand new version, and as you can see, it actually has a lot of information on it, and we did that on purpose. We wanted to kind of put as much information as possible into that one graphic image for your dashboard, and then also give you more context if you were to get this into your email. So we'll talk about that too separately. So on the dashboard image that you'll see, it actually shows you both diagnostics and malfunctions at the same time. And then in the actual report itself, we'll show you, again, diagnostics versus malfunctions, but it also looks for whether or not they're cleared. So that helps a lot so that you can actually see the ones that are active, and you can see there's some really good conditional highlighting in there as well. So you can easily at a glance see if there are malfunctions that are still ongoing or not. So that's a really, really good report. And again, it's going to be automatically included in that 2102 release, so you can just turn them on if you'd like. The advanced hours of service log report, that one is one that we've had for a little while. It's a really good report if you want to take a look at all of the logs for each one of your drivers in a much more succinct way. So what it does is it takes the regular log report and it rearranges it and groups it by driver. So you can actually see in the little screenshot here on the left that each driver has its own section. So it's another way that you can actually find that details, and it just presents it in a much easier way than the older version. The drivers approaching limit report. This one is one that, again, we've had. So this has got a new update, so brand new images, brand new conditional highlighting. And one of the neatest features about this is if none of your drivers are actually approaching a limit, the image that you see on the screen where we have that 7 and that exclamation mark, if that's a 0, it actually doesn't appear in red. So that's using a little bit new technology and some new features of Excel that we can harness inside of our dashboards. So if you don't actually have any drivers approaching a limit, it's not going to appear red and it's not going to draw your eye to them. So a lot of our reports will actually do this now, and on the dashboard, it won't be in that red warning color if you don't actually have to look at it. So that's kind of a neat feature, and this is one of the reports that does that. And this is another one that we are including in 2102. This is probably my favorite report that we've built, and maybe we should say rebuilt, is the Unverified ELD logs report. So this is a really good one for both your dashboard and your email. So you can see I've dedicated a whole slide for this just because I really wanted to show what it can do. First off is the dashboard element. It will break down all of the days and whether they're fully verified or not. So you can kind of see here, we've got one day that had 2 drivers drive that day and all of the logs are verified. But the next day, we had 2 drivers drive and there's some unverified logs there. So what it does is it distills all of the unverified logs into a driver and day kind of idea. We didn't want to have you go and see that one driver had 40 logs that were unverified. We just wanted to say, hey, this driver has at least one unverified log on that day, because that driver's not going to go in and verify 50 logs individually. They're going to verify that whole day. So we wanted to make sure that the report kind of reflected that you've got drivers who have days that are unverified and drivers who are good to go. So that's on the dashboard. So that's a really good one to have on your dashboard. And again, just enable it because it'll be there in 2102. And if you enable it for email, the emailed version is what you see on the right-hand side. So it will actually give you a little matrix of the dates and whether you have a driver that needs to verify that day or not. So it's a little grid that will build automatically, and it's got conditional highlighting in there and some math. So when you get that in your inbox, it actually breaks it down by driver, and you can see exactly what days they have to worry about. So it's a really good visual representation. It's something that we haven't done inside of a report before. So I wanted to show that off and give it some really good examples, because it's a really, really good way to keep track of all of your unverified logs, because we know that's one of the biggest things that our admins have to do, is track these things. Then we have one that is, it's been around for a little while, but we've updated it a bit, and this is the egregious HOS violation costs. Now, this is an example of the worst case scenario for carriers and drivers with fines. Now, most times you're not going to end up with violations and fines of this size, but we're talking about in the worst possible scenario, what could happen if all of your violations actually were fined at the highest amount that we could find across different states. So it's a little bit of a way to scare your drivers into making sure that they're compliant, I will admit, but it's a good representation of the worst case scenario. So this is another version of, it's a variation of the violations report, but it converts the violations into actual monetary costs. So that's another one you can download from the marketplace. That is it for the drive side for the 2102 release. So we can answer some questions now as well.
A report that tells us about the pre or post DVIRs that are missing, and is that available on, that we could put onto the dashboard at an easy glance?
Yeah, you have lots of options there. It depends exactly on what you would want to track, whether things are missing or not. So you've got options in the hours of service logs themselves, because you could build a report and you could look for the annotation pre and post that should appear. better way, though, would be utilizing the rules that we have inside of the rules engine that are detecting pre and post. So you can toggle those on and you can configure them as well to tell the system how much driving do you want until the system will count a pre missing. So for instance, if you've got a lot of driving happening in a yard overnight, you wouldn't want those to trigger any kind of pre-trip missing because they don't have to happen. But maybe you want to say once a trip is 10 miles long and it doesn't have a pre-trip at the beginning of it, that's what I want to catch. And you can do the same thing for post trips as well. So you can say, how long does the previous trip have to be, and how much time has to elapse before we'll consider that a post trip is missing. So you can enable those two rules, and then from that point, it's just a regular exception report. So you can then take the exception report templates that we have on Marketplace. When you download them and set them up, just point them to those two rules. And then from there, the system will be able, you can have emails go out, or you can have them on your dashboard, whichever you like. You can even, if you wanted to, have those rules trigger email notifications as well, because they're just regular rules. Depending on how many pre and post trips get missed on a particular day, you may not want to have them email you every time. So the exception report might be a better option, but that's probably the best way to do it because the rules have a lot more configurability in terms of dialing into exactly what type of trip you are doing, and that allows you to make sure that the rules break only when you actually would have expected one of these pre or post to happen. So that's the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you for that, Kyle. In Canada, can we transfer logs to an officer with a new version Geotab?
Not yet. Actually, that's a good question. So there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that we need to be a certified Canadian ELD to do that, and that's not happened yet. It's still in process. But also, there are some questions as exactly how officers are going to be able to unlock the encryption that's required by the law. I'm not sure how many other ELD vendors are asking Transport Canada that same question, but we certainly are, is that there is not a lot of detail around the process that gives the keys to these files to enforcement. So, and what I mean by that is the file that we have to send out of the transfer has to be encrypted. And that makes sense because there's some personal information on there, like where you've driven. Your driver's license information is on that file. So we don't necessarily want that to be just openable by anybody. So it has to be encrypted. The keys to that file have to be given to enforcement by your certification partner. So since that hasn't happened, and there are still questions around exactly what that encryption is supposed to look like, even if the transfer happened and the file went out of the system, nobody could actually open it. So that's why we don't have it turned on right now, is we don't want to have that file go out to an officer and then that officer not be able to open the file. So we're still waiting on some of that information. So I would anticipate that when we are certified by our certification partner, that would be when we can turn that on. But as I say, there are still outstanding questions as to exactly how this file is supposed to be encrypted and sent over. So at present, it's still a bit of a waiting game. I'm waiting on more information from Transport Canada.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Kyle. I guess this will be our last question, and I go to both Kyle and to Anthony on this one. Do either of you know what is the ETA for this, version getting out to all databases?
I am not sure of exact dates, but what I can say is that when this comes out on our blog, that is the 30-day countdown to when is the earliest that we can update anything. So we have an SLA in place with our customers and our resellers and our partners that any changes to our databases will be communicated at least 30 days in advance. So when the blog comes out and says, hey, here's the what's new for X release, that it opens the window, but it has to be at least 30 days from that point until we are able to do any kind of upgrading under our standard SLA. So from whatever date that was, 30 days from then is the earliest that we could see it, unless you're under a different SLA. But for a general database, it's at earliest 30 days from the publish of the What's New blog. And then at that point, it kicks off a rolling cycle that usually lasts about 30 days to get to all of the databases. It's a slower rollout for the first week to 2 weeks, and then a much faster one for the next 2 to 3 after that. So that's the best that I can kind of say, is that more details you can get from our support team, since they are the holder of the keys of the database upgrades, but it can't be faster than 30 days from that What's New blog publish, because it would break our SLA.
And just to add to what Kyle said, the blog did come out on May 10th. So the earliest that you'll see any changes, is to 30 days outside of May 10th. So we're looking at mid-June.
Well, that's awesome. And that wraps up our questions. Well, thank you, Anthony and Kyle, for keeping us up to date and for putting this detailed deck together for us. So that's a wrap for today's Wildcard Wednesday. And until next time, I'm Sue Miller, and on behalf of myself and everyone here at Geotab, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you all next time, same Geotab time, same Geotab channel.